what is the biggest difference between the type of work, the M&A flow working in big law versus M&A flow on Main Street, small business deal?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. Number one is just the complexity of transaction. There's a lot more that goes on, quote unquote, upmarket than in small business. So you see a lot more mergers. You see a lot more, for all the talk of F reorganizations and like the spooky boogeyman of an F reorganization. That's like, that's the kindergarten of reorganizations in advance of M&A. And in the vast majority of cases, you've got really complex restructurings going on, things like that. So just the kind of sheer breadth, because of the size of business that you're usually talking about, takes you solidly out of an asset purchase agreement with some closing documents and a note, right? They can become incredibly complex. Second, just to kind of tag along with the breadth, when you're looking at a $5 million revenue business, a $10 million revenue business, even if it's the same line of business, the sheer volume of data and things to review from a diligence perspective is exponentially higher when you're looking at a $250 million business, even if it's the same business, right? If I'm doing an $8 million roofing company or a $300 million roofing roll-up, just because of the sheer size of business, the level of customer contracts that you're dealing with, the level of licensing that you're dealing with across different jurisdictions and things like that, significantly expands. And so that's where you get into this idea of like teams of lawyers, right? Third, there are some sectors and things like that we're rarely going to touch in SMB, just because they are so complex and heavily regulated that they just naturally are never this small, right? We're pretty much never going to see like a biotech deal in the same way I used to when I worked at Cooley. Even though some of those are small businesses or startups, just because of the heavy regulatory nature, the startup, you're still doing millions of dollars on a Series A before you ever even like have an office and a website, right? These become very complex very quickly. And that's where you start needing like specialists. One of the benefits to us never having to deal with a biotech deal is we don't have to have a team of FDA specialists and regulatory specialists and Medicare, Medicaid specialists if we're dealing with like complex medical devices and government billing and things like that. Those are the things that come immediately to mind of why this scales differently and why it's so easy for those of us who kind of cut our teeth on deals of that nature to come into the SMB world and really start to add value very quickly on these transactions, because they are kind of a lot quicker moving, a lot more straightforward. And it really lets you distill down to like brass tacks, the things that are really important, because we're not dealing with, hey, have we gotten through 98,000 pages of contract review for an anti-assignment clause?